Right, this lesson is on decimals and fractions. Okay, right, first we'll do decimals first because that's the easier of the two. Right, so decimals, we're going to add, subtract, multiply, and divide. Okay, so let's add decimals. If I can actually write on the board there, 3.8 plus, 2.6. Now, when you're adding decimals, one thing to remember is to keep the decimal points all in a column, one on top of each other. Okay, so 6 and 8 are 14, so I've got 4 there and carry 1. 3 and 2 are 5, plus the 1 is 6, and the decimal point goes there in the answer, so we've got 6.4. If we subtract, so basically it's just the same as ordinary numbers, except we've got a dot in the middle, yeah? If we subtract 2.3 minus 1.7, yeah? Okay, again, start from the right. So 3 minus 7 we can't do because we're going to end up with a minus number. So we're going to borrow 1 off of this, 2 there. So call that 1 and put the 1 there to make 13. So 13 take away 7 is 6. There's a decimal point. 1 take away 1 is nothing. 0.6 is the answer. Right, multiply. Now, when you multiply decimals, 3.4 times, let's do an extra number in there, times 2.3. Now, this time, when you multiply, you don't need to put the dots underneath each other. And we'll find out where to put the dot when we've finished doing all the numbers. So just multiply, ignoring the decimal points to start off with. So 3 times 2 is 6, 3 times 4 is 12, 3 times 3 is 9, and the 1 is 10. And then we're going to multiply by the 2, so we need a place marker so that the first answer comes directly below the 2. So 2 2s are 4, 2 4s are 8, and 2 3s are 6, and add the 2 together, 6, 6, 8, 7. Now, where to put the decimal point? Where to put the decimal point? So let's get a highlighter, if it works, yeah. Now, in the question, call this the question at the top, we've got 2 numbers after the decimal point there, and 1 number after the decimal point there. So we've got 3 numbers after our decimal points. And so we need 3 numbers after the decimal point in the answer. And so the decimal point goes there. So we've got 7.88866. 2 times 3 is 6, plus a bit more. So there you go, 7.8. Now dividing is more difficult, but there is a trick. There is a trick. If we go 32 divided by, what should we go? 0.4. Now, doing the 0.4 times table is just not going to work very well when we're dividing into 32. So what we've got to do is get rid of the decimal point, and the way to get rid of that decimal point is to multiply that number by 10, which gives us 4. Now, if we multiply that by 10, we also must multiply that by 10, which gives us 320. So now we've got 320 divided by 4, which should be okay. So 320 divided by 4. So 4 goes into 3, oh, it doesn't go, yeah. So I'll put a 0 there anyway. 4's into 32 are 8. And don't forget the 0 at the end because of the number size. So that equals 80. So 32 divided by 0.4 is 80. So that's the decimals. Right, and we won't worry about bits left over and what have you just yet. So the fractions. So 3/4 times a half. When you're multiplying fractions, you multiply the top 2 numbers together and then you multiply the bottom 2 numbers together. So 3 times 1 is 3 and 4 times 2 is 8. That's all you do. When you divide, So we go 3/4 divided by, all right, 2/5. Yeah, I was going to use the same number, but I'd gone wrong, so let's do this one. So what we need to do now with this one, we need to turn the second one upside down and change the sign to a multiply. The first fraction remains the same, so now we've got the same routine as we've got up here. So 3 times 5 is 15, and 4 times 2 is 8. That's how to multiply, and that's how to divide. Don't worry about this at the moment being a bigger number on the top and the bottom. We'll do that in a second. Multiply, add. Right, so 3/4 plus 1/4. Yeah. When the denominators, which is this number at the bottom, are all the same, we simply add the numbers at the top. So 3 and 1 make 4. So we've got 4/4. 4 divided by 4, that actually equals 1. So, but when the denominators are different, there are two methods we can use. So we do 3/4 plus 3/8. Yeah. Now the denominators are different, so we can't just add the 3 and the 3 together. So what we can do is we can make the denominators at the bottom the same and always go for the higher number. Yeah. So if we double this number 4, we will get an 8. So because we've doubled the number on the bottom, we double the number on the top to get 6. So 3/4 and 6/8 are the same thing, they're equivalent. Now we go plus 3/8. So now we can just add the two together. So 6 and 3 are 9, and 8 and 8 are 8, sorry, not 8 and 8, 9/8. So 6/8 and 3/8 equals 9/8. Right, so that's one little trick, is to say double or treble one number to make it match the other. Now if you've got 3/4 plus 2/7, it's going to be difficult. If you double 4, it doesn't equal 7. If you treble 4 and double 7 and all sorts of things, it gets complicated. So what we do is this way. You multiply the 2 together at the bottom. 4 sevens are 28. And this is a multiple of 7, and it's also a multiple of 4. So in fact, we've got a common denominator of 28. It may not be the lowest one, but it doesn't matter. It will do for simplicity. And then we cross multiply, because what we did with this 4, we multiplied it by 7 to get 28. So we must multiply this one by 7 to get 21. And then we multiply this one by 4 to get 8. And we add, because it's add, we add them together, which is 29/28. It's fine. So what are we doing if we're taking away 3/4, take away 2/10, call it 2/10, yeah? So again, we can't really match this 4 and the 10 together, but if we multiply it, we can get 40 at the bottom. And now we cross multiply, so we go 10 times 3 is 30, and 4 times 2 is 8, and this time there is a subtraction, a minus sign. So that equals 22/40. Right, so that's add and subtract, multiply and divide. Now you see some of these answers that we're getting numbers that are bigger on the top than the bottom, and numbers that can be simplified. So we'll look at this 29/28. So this is called a top heavy, and we don't like to leave our answer as a top heavy. And this sign in the middle means divide, so we're doing 29 divided by 28. So you need how many 28s go into 29, which that equals 1. and you've got one left over. One, what are they? They're 28s, so that equals that. So that's simplifying that into a mixed. And this one, 22 over 40, we can simplify this by dividing both by 2, I guess, and that would be 11 over 20. And you can't go any further because this is a prime number, 11, so you won't be able to factorize it or make it smaller. So yeah, if you've got a top heavy, you can change it into a mix for your answer. If you've got numbers that you can simplify, then you will be expected to do so. So with these things, to make this a bit more complicated, if I have a mixed number of 2 3/4, and we can change between mixed and top heavy. So we go back the other way, and this is how we do it. You take the 4 and you multiply the 2. So you go 2 4s are 8. And then you add the 3, making 11. And it's all in quarters, so it's 11 quarters. So if we did from mixed back to top heavy, or top heavy back to mixed, we go 11 divided by 4 is 2, because 2 4s are 8. We've got 3 left over, yeah? So you can go from mixed to top heavy, and top heavy to mixed. You need that because if you have 2 3/4, shall we add? Yeah, 1 1/3 bit. This is about as difficult as it gets, yeah? So this can either be a subtraction or an addition. It doesn't make any difference. So let's change this into top heavy. So 4 2s are 8, plus 3 is 11 over 4. Yeah, good, did that just now. This one, 3 1s are 3, plus 1 is 4 over 3. Now, do the routine we did by multiplying the 4 and the 3 together to get 12. Cross multiply to get 33. Add 4 4s are 16. And that gives you 49 over 12. Right, so we've got 49 over 12. And we need to divide this because it's a top heavy. So how many 12s go into 49? 4 12s are 48, so that would be 4 and 1 left over, 4 12s. So sometimes we will need to change things into top heavy before we do the addition, subtraction, or whatever it might be. And other times we need to change the top heavy back into a mixed. Right. What else did we do? Simplify top heavy. Right. So now we did converting. And we changed from fractions to decimals. We didn't do percentages, so fractions to decimals. So we do decimals first. So yeah, so 0.7. Yeah. Now the 7 is in the 10th column. Therefore, we have 7 of these, 7/10. So that will be 7 over 10. If we have 0.08, the 8 is in the 100ths column, so we have 8 of these, so that would be 8/100ths. And if we have 32, now we've got some tenths and we've got some hundredths, but we're only looking at the last one, yeah, and this will be 32/100ths. 32/100ths. And chances are when you do it this way, you can't with a 7, but you could simplify that to be 4 over 50, 2 over 25. Can't go any lower than that. This could be 16 over 50 and 8 over 25. Yeah, so you can simplify when you're changing decimals to fractions. Now, when you're going the other way, changing fractions, There's our favourite fraction. Changing that to a decimal, this fraction just means 3 divided by 4. So 3 divided by 4. Now, what I do with these things, 3 is the same as 3.0, which is the same as 3.00, and so on and so forth. So I always put a decimal point there, and I put 3 zeros in to help with the division. It's the same number, but put a few zeros in there. So 4s into 3 don't go, so that's 0. 4s into 30, so the 3 left over, so you've got 4s into 30, and 4 7s are 28 with 2 left over, and 4s into 20 go 5, and there's nothing left over, so we didn't actually need the third 0 in this case. So 3/4 is the same as 0.75. Now 1/3, so this is going to be 1, and I put the zeros in, divided by 3. So 3s into 1 don't go, there's the decimal. 3s into 10 go 3, because 3 3s are 9, I've got 1 left over. 3s into 10 go 3, 1 left over. 3s into 10 go 3. And you see this is going on forever. I'm never going to get the end of this. So this is called a recurring decimal. And the way that that is written, when we get 3, just the 3 recurring, that would be 0.3 dot. Yeah, so that is the same as 0.33333, and so on and so forth. If you have a recurring decimal that is that would be 0.3, and the 2 is recurring, so the 2's would go on forever. If you have 0.32 and there is a dot above both of them, then that would be 0.32, and the 32 recurs now. 32, 32, 32, 32, and so on and so forth. So it's much better to write them with a little recurring point over the top. Then we had reciprocal numbers, and this is just sort of easy way, upside down, right? So if I take my 3/4, the reciprocal of 3/4 is 4/3. It's just the numbers the other way around. If I take 1/2, the reciprocal of that will be 2/1. And because 2 divided by 1 is 2, I could put my answer to just 2. And the reciprocal of 44 will be equal to 1 over, well, it's not equal, but the reciprocal is 1/44. And I think that was about it for that lesson, fractions and decimals. So this is just a little reminder that you can look at later on, especially in a month's time, when you want to go back and have a look at something. So I'll leave you with that one then.